beautiful night here in St. Louis. We're at Busch Stadium for Cubs baseball. It's the Hyundai leadoff man on WGN Sports. Game 2 of this series coming up in about 15 minutes. Great to have you with us, Jim Deshaies and Len Casper. Last night's 10-9 loss really stung as the Cubs could not hold leads of 5-0 and 8-4.
Yeah, it comes in a little bit of a tailspin. The offense had been down. That wasn't the problem last night. The Cub hitters had a very nice night. 9 runs, banged out 12 hits, but they couldn't hold a couple of leads. 5-0 in the top of the first, and then 8-4. Travis Wood struggled. The bullpen gave it up late. Mark Reynolds had the big swing of the bat for the Cardinals, and the St. Louis team is red hot.
Cubs bullpen needs some help, and they're going to get that help from a former Cub, now back with the organization, James Russell, and right-hander Anthony Varvaro.
Nice to see James Russell back in the fold. We saw Varvaro a little bit with the Braves last year. Some tired arms out there, so Joe Madden gets some replacements.
Gonzalez German to the minors, Kristen Orfia to the DL. We'll hear from the manager about all the roster moves today when we come back. Who invite you to test drive our award-winning lineup today. Visit buyhyundai.com. Back here in St. Louis, Cubs and Cardinals coming up. It's the leadoff man, and let's hear from Joe Madden on the multiple roster moves today as the Cubs will go with an extra reliever in the bullpen.
We've got 2 fresh arms coming, badly needed right now. After last night and just in general, we've just had to use a lot of guys, and we're a lot stronger tonight from that regard. We thought we needed the pitching more than the extra player right now, so that's what we chose to do what we did. And the guys on the bench, you got Montero and Coughlin, 2 really good hitters on the bench tonight. Herrera's versatile. We do have Woody to pinch hit early if we need that. It's all still there. The biggest thing we thought we had to protect the arms more than anything. I really, Stropey last 2 days, I thought Ross Cup's been up a lot lately too, and I'm really concerned about those 2 guys. So you don't want to abuse those kind of pitchers early in the season. That's going to hurt you later.
So the Cubs tonight try to end their 3-game skid and the Cardinals' 7-game winning streak. We'll have more and a ramp up to the first pitch in a moment. lineup today. Visit buyhyundai.com. Day 5 of 17 in a row for the Cubs before their next off day. That'll be after that game on the 17th against the Pirates. Right now very heavily tilted toward the NL Central, but we'll see the New York Mets coming up 4 starting on Monday. The Mets leading the National League East by 3.5. We have Cubs baseball from St. Louis coming up next. Game 2 tonight of a 4-game series between 2 long rivals in the National League, the Cubs and the Cardinals here on WGN Sports. Cubs trying to erase the memory of a 10-9 loss in Game 1. And our pitching matchup tonight for the Cubs, it'll be 25-year-old right-hander Kyle Hendricks. He faced the Cardinals 3 different times in his rookie year. Last year, he's still seeking his first victory of 2015. Left-hander Tyler Lyons, just up from AAA. He'll pitch in Adam Wainwright's spot, and the Cardinals are looking for somebody to grab a hold of that spot in the rotation, as Wainwright will miss the rest of the season. So Hendricks and Lyons, Cubs and Cardinals coming up. An offensive display last night. We'll see what transpires in Game 2 coming up next. beer for whatever happens. Honda Dream. For whatever happens. Honda Dream Garage Sales event. Now it's your Honda dealer. Napa, home of Napa know-how. Ford, America's best-selling brand. Inviting you to go further in our fuel-efficient vehicles. Check out our entire lineup at your Ford store or at localfordstores.com. Subway, make a smart play for savory subs this season. Score more flavor at Subway restaurants. Subway, eat fresh. And by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. Chicago Cubs baseball in high definition on WGN is brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports.
Let's take a look at our Gander Mountain game time weather. Well, it's just lovely, 81 degrees. Just a mild zephyr of a breeze. 46% humidity. Barometric pressure 29.06 and rising. It's lovely out. Brought to you by Gander Mountain. Low price every day guaranteed.
And now the Cubs batting order brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. Continuing to tweak is Joe Madden. Fowler will lead off. Rizzo second. But Chris Bryant's going to hit third for the first time in his major league career. Soler will now move down to the cleanup spot. Castro, Junior Lake in left with Denorfia now on the DL. Wellington Castillo gets the start back of the plate against the lefty Lions. Kyle Hendricks, the pitcher, batting eighth. And Addison Russell, who homered off Lions in a minor league game in April, will hit ninth.
And we'll look at the Cardinals defensively. You'll see Holiday, Jay, and Hayward in their normal spots. Same for the infield. Carpenter, Peralta, Wong. Matt Adams back in there. He had the night off last night, as did Yadier Molina. He was rested last night, back in there tonight. He of the 7 consecutive Gold Gloves and 6 consecutive trips to the All-Star game. And Tyler Lyons in his major league career has not had a lot of time. 12 starts, 23 appearances overall. 2-8 with a .462 earned run average. He was 2-1 with a .291 in 4 starts down at AAA this year.
And he's ready to go. And the switch hitting Dexter Fowler takes a sinking fastball on the outside corner for strike one. Pretty interesting. So Adam Wainwright done for the year with the Achilles injury. This is the second time through the rotation in his spot. The first time it was a left-hander named Tim Cooney. He struggled. Tonight it's Lions. They've got veteran Jaime Garcia on the DL. He threw a 70-pitch bullpen session in Florida today, so he could start a minor league rehab assignment this weekend. And a little stumble out of the box by Fowler, and it's going to cost him. As Carpenter with a barehanded play to get him. If Dexter doesn't trip out of the batter's box, I think he has an infield hit.
Let's take a look. This little stumble there as he tries to make the break out of the box. Carpenter closes quickly. Fowler out number 1.
The Cardinals also have Marco Gonzalez, who's on the AAA disabled list, but he's expected to return to the Memphis rotation this weekend as well. He's got a sore left pectoral muscle that's in the chest. So there's some pressure on Lyons.
Well, you know, Garcia obviously has the pedigree. He's had success at this level. He's just been battling injuries for the last couple of years. So he's probably the guy the Cardinals would love to see get healthy and claim that spot. But it is an opportunity here for Lyons if he can impress in a start or two. Whatever he gets, he may be able to hang on to this job for a while. Not an overpowering guy. He throws around 90 miles an hour. He'll throw a two-seam fastball with a little run, little sink, and also a four-seamer.
Right down the middle. A pitch called by veteran Bill Welke. DJ Rayburn is at first. John Tumpane, John Hirschbeck rounding it out. Strike two. Rizzo homered last night. There's John Mozeliak, the architect here in St. Louis. The Cardinals off to their best 25-game start in modern history, dating back to 1900. 19-6. Breaking ball, and that will be a fair ball just inside the chalk line. And Rizzo on his way to second. He's got a sliding double. How about that cue shot?
That was a thing of beauty is what that was. It's a little curvature. Just kind of sliced it. And good hustle out of the box earns him a two-base hit and an RBI opportunity for Chris Bryant. Double number 5 for Rizzo. That slider that he hit, that's kind of the go-to pitch for Lyons. It's probably his best pitch. He likes to bury it down and in on the right-handed hitters.
That is the 50th time Rizzo has reached base. Only D. Gordon of the Marlins has been on more often in the National League, 52 times going into play tonight. So Bryant moving up. First 16 games he hit cleanup, batting third tonight. Stats hit a great note. The Cubs 3 through 5 hitters, and that, you know, at times has included Rizzo. Second in the majors collectively with a .322 batting average and a .927 OPS. So the middle of the order has been very good.
The O part of the OPS has been more impressive than the slugging piece, but you know that will come. We've already seen signs of it from Rizzo. Now it's Bryant's turn to jump on board, and I think that's part of the reason why he's got Bryant in this spot in the batting order. Not so much of who's behind him, but who's in front of him. I think, you know, with Rizzo always being on base, that's going to put pressure on pitchers to come after Bryant a little bit more, theoretically.
Chris got on base 5 times last night, but he strikes out here for out number 2. First strikeout for Lyons.
And there again, that's that down and in slider that he's going to throw a lot to the right-handed hitters. And the same thing for Soler. That's really, you know, with Rizzo and Bryant on base as much as they are, that really should provide opportunities for Soler.
Did not start last night for the first time this season. He did pinch hit in the 9th inning and grounded out to short. And a curveball misses, ball 1. So Jorge has now started in all of the top 4 slots in the order, including leadoff. First, second, third, and fourth. Cardinals have won 2 of the first 3 in this 19-game season series. There's tonight's Cubs starter, the contemplative Kyle Hendricks.
Probably visualizing the bottom half of the first inning, where he's going to throw what to whom. Well, the first 2 games of the season back at Wrigley, when we got our first short abbreviated look at the Cardinals, there was a total of 5 runs scored in those 2 games by both clubs. Last night, Cubs matched that in the top half of the first. It was a bizarre ball game last night. played under a full moon.
The last time the Cubs were involved in a game in which each team scored at least 4 runs in the first inning, 1996 against the Cardinals. The last time it happened on the road, June 17th, 1962, against the expansion New York Mets at the Polo Grounds in New York. Thanks to Ed Hardig for his research on that. So if it felt like you hadn't seen what we saw last night in a while, that's because you hadn't. Swing and a miss, 2-2.
Lyons, 27 years of age, 6'4", 200 pounds, from Lubbock, Texas.
Former high school all-state quarterback. Ended up at Oklahoma State. Pitched out of the bullpen as a freshman, then became a starter as a sophomore and flourished. He wasn't quite as good the following year. Soler grounds out to Carpenter. 1-out double by Rizzo. No runs, however. The Cards coming up against Kyle Hendricks. Back twice from a 5-0 deficit and then 8-4. Jay, Carpenter, and Holiday at the top. You see all these 300 averages in the middle. Adams, Peralta, Jason Hayward's had a good season against the Cubs. 6 hits in 3 games. Molina, the catcher. Wong, the second baseman, and the pitcher, Lyons.
Cubs played solid defensively, error-free in the ball game last night. Here's the alignment this evening. Junior Lake gets a start in left. Fowler, center. Soler, right. Brian Castro, Russell, Rizzo, third to first. Wellington Castillo gets a starting assignment behind the plate tonight for Kyle Hendricks.
I kind of like Russell and Rizzo.
Russell. We got Ruz and Riz on the right side. Hendricks has pitched better than that .523 earned run average. Strikeout per inning, essentially. Not walking people. Keeps doing what he's doing. That ERA is going to go down.
So you've got Dartmouth against Oklahoma State tonight. A couple of college guys, and Hendricks and Lyons. 1-1 on John Jay. 1 for 4 last night. Was hit by a pitch, scored a run. He was batting .189 on April the 24th, but now .371 over his last 9 games to get his average up over .260.
Solid contact hitter, has been for a while now. Doesn't strike out much, doesn't hit for power. But whoop.
Hendricks not having a ton of luck. Yes, his ERA is 5.23, but the FIP number, according to Baseball Reference, which tries to take some of the luck out of it, is 3.28. So if he keeps pitching the way he has, theoretically, the results should get better. But Jay hit by a pitch for the second straight night. Did you know that John Jay leads the majors in hit by pitches since the start of last year? 25.
I know that.
25th time since the beginning of 14. Rizzo saying, I feel you. Now Matt Carpenter. We've been talking about Anthony Rizzo a month into the season being a bona fide MVP candidate. Matt Carpenter very much on that list as well. 25 games. In 16 of those games he's had at least 2 hits. And they scored 10 runs last night, JD, and he went 0 for 5 with 2 strikeouts.
Yeah, you would figure on a big night like that he'd be right in the middle of it.
He's going to be 0 for 6 to start this series as Fowler makes the grab, 1 away.
Go figure, right?
Well, last night it was the role guys. Mark Reynolds, Tony Cruz, the backup catcher, Colton Wong lurking down low in the order. Saw Reynolds exchange the lineup card again tonight. He did it for the first game of this winning streak, and because baseball people are superstitious, they had him.
Oh yeah.
Keep bringing out the cards, so he's done it.
He'll be the guy,
for a week, and he'll continue to do it if this winning streak continues. Holiday off to a good start. He's only hit 1 home run, but he's getting on base a ton. And his walks to strikeouts ratio is 1-to-1. 20 walks, 20 Ks.
Hendricks is a ground ball pitcher, and Holiday hits the ball on the ground a lot. He typically grounds into a lot of double plays. That certainly is what Hendricks has in mind. Holiday very good middle away, has tremendous power to right center field. Cubs have had success pitching him hard in.
And they are going in. At least that's what Castillo is showing. 1 ball, 1 strike. Bottom of the first, no score. Ground ball, and just hit too hard for Castro to get to it. Jay on his way to third, and they're at the corners as Holiday's got his 3rd hit of the series. Well, he got the ground ball, just didn't get the double play ball.
Yeah, too sharply hit. The pitch was out over the plate. You see they're set up inside, and that ball runs out over the plate, and Holiday takes advantage, hits it sharply, and Castro doesn't have time to make a play on it.
So from Matt Carpenter to Matt Holiday to Matt Adams. He got off to a slow start, but hot as of late. And he swings at the first pitch, pops it up. Jay is going to tag as Castro makes the catch. Jay's going to try to score. The throw to the plate. Out at the plate. We'll see if Mike Matheny wants to take another look. He is still in the dugout. We're going to wait just a second. And I don't think he's going to challenge. So Castro throws out Jay to end the first inning. And we remain scoreless.
Part of a double play, makes a catch. Threw off his back foot there. I don't think he thought Jay was going to run, but he got him.
He kind of got away with one there. He wasn't in very good position catching that pop-up. You have to anticipate that the runner might try to go there. He was able to make an accurate throw home and got him, but in a perfect world, he'd be positioned a little bit better behind that pop-up.
Our Xfinity high-speed replay. Here's the 0-1. Backdoor breakers outside. That's the play we talked about. Pete Palmer had mentioned teams don't try to score enough on the one-out sac fly attempt. And when you've got an infielder backing up, that's not a terrible play if you can run well like Jay does. And he made it close. And the thought is, statistically, if you're thrown out, it ends the inning, it looks bad. But if you don't go, the odds are that you're probably not going to drive that guy in with 2 outs anyway.
I like the play. I like it better later in the game, in a tight game, when you're thinking more in terms of one-run strategies. Early in the game, I still like thinking of a big inning, but it's overall, I think that's a smart play. It's a good play. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Castro bounces foul.
We had that conversation the other night, and we have it often, that the difference between aggressive and reckless on the bases, and that's an aggressive baseball play. I wouldn't call that reckless.
Two gets away, and Starlin swung at it, but he's going to reach on a wild pitch. Strikeout and a wild pitch. That's a smart play, Starlin. You know it's going to get past Molina. Just swing at it.
The guy who likes to hit the way Castro does, he's probably contemplating trying to challenge the call the whole way down first base. I didn't really go, but I'm going to be safe. And he clearly did go. So a strikeout and a wild pitch.
Now Lake, he pinch ran for the injured Krista Norfield last night. Ended up 1 for 3 with a stolen base. Getting his second start since coming up from Iowa. And good matchup tonight. He has homered Tyler Lyons. Two for 3 with a home run.
Tried to throw that back foot slider to him and never got it there. Big swing in the bat by Junior Lake. Junior hasn't had a lot of plate appearances since joining the club, but he's been swinging the bat pretty well. Been hitting the ball hard.
Two and 0 the count. Here's a pitch, fouled off. So I mentioned Lyons in his college career started out as a reliever at Oklahoma State, then became a starter. Was good at first, not quite as solid his junior year, but the Yankees drafted him in the 10th round. He decided to come back for his senior season and put up a 6.06. He did move up in the draft 1 round. Cardinals grabbed him in the 9th round. And his 2-1 tap foul.
Last year for the Cardinals, he appeared in 11 games, made 4 starts. He was 0-4 with a 4.42.
Full count, 3-2. Castillo is on deck. Lined into right, and Hayward able to knock it down on the slide. That's pretty good play by Hayward to not let that ball get by him. So the Cubs in business here, 2 on, nobody out.
Yeah, the defensive metrics not really good for Hayward this year, but he's a good outfielder. He's been one of the better outfielders in the National League for a couple of years, and able to leave his feet, give himself a chance to make a shoestring catch, a diving catch. More importantly, able to keep it in front, no further advance for Castro.
So that sets it up for the bottom 3 in the order, starting with Castillo. And this is obviously a key at bat in this inning with the pitcher Hendricks now on deck. You wouldn't expect Castillo to bunt, and the Cardinals aren't either. They've got everybody back in double play depth. 1 ball, no strikes. Another great night and a big crowd here at Busch Stadium. If you're not wearing red this week, you're wearing blue. Or a combination of the two, I guess.
Ooh, didn't have to be.
2-1.
They should make one of those chess games where the pieces are the Reds, the Cardinals, and the Cubs, the blue and the red. Chessmen.
Yeah.
Could order it on TV like have an infomercial. Baseball rivalry chess sets.
Sharply hit on the ground, foul. Is there a fan base that wears its team shirts and colors and jerseys more than the Cardinals?
Probably not in baseball. Seems like hockey. Seems like everybody wears the
hockey,
the sweaters. Yeah.
Strike 3 call. That's his second strikeout of the inning, but only the first out.
This time he backdoors the slider. He gets plenty of the plate. Locks up Castillo. And now Hendricks will take a whack at him with 1 out here. Well, inside move there by Lyons, thinking perhaps the Cubs are going to play a little bunt and run. Maybe just waiting to see if Hendricks would tip his hand as to whether he was going to bunt. A lot of times Joe will turn his bunters loose on that first pitch, trying to do a little damage, and then put the bunt on. We'll see what happens here. Little butcher boy. That didn't work. If plan A didn't work, plan B didn't work. Let's see what plan C is. See if Hendricks can get a bunt down with 2 strikes.
Strike 3 called. He's got a chance at a 4-strikeout inning as he'll face Russell with 2 outs. Cubs fans, if you want to manage the game along with Joe Madden, log on to WGNTV.com right now. Click on the WGN Sports Game Zone banner and connect to all the up-to-the-minute stats and information while watching at home. Game Zone is sponsored by the Great Escape Pools, patio furniture, hot tubs, and more. Everything you need to have more fun at home this summer. So it was Iowa and Memphis on April the 12th, Lions' first AAA start of the year, and Russell took him deep. Russell went deep in the 9th inning last night.
Yeah, he had a no-doubter here last night. Ball really exploded off his bat.
That was off Seth Maness. Got the Cubs within 1. And that would be the final 10-9. He is now hit in 7 in a row. Apparently Seth bored by that story. 1-2. You ever strike out 4 in an inning?
I don't recall doing that. Seems like that would be something I would recall had I done it. I didn't bounce the ball very much. I was an easy guy to catch. Didn't throw hard, didn't have good movement, never bounced it.
But you got people out. That's all that matters.
That was like a day off for the catchers. You know, you got to catch Mike Scott one day with his ball moving all over the place, and Nolan throwing 100 miles an hour. Bob Knepper had great movement. Reading a story about Molina, 538.com the other day, and in the story they pointed out that he is really struggling in terms of framing pitches. He had been one of the best for a long time, but according to this story and the research, he's having a bad year back there framing pitches.
Well, he was going to set up, it looked like, way off the outside corner. But the pitcher wants to have a word.
I think Molina is trying to pick up the tempo a little bit with lines, trying to get him going a little bit. He's working very slowly, taking a lot of time between pitches. Talking about good defensive catchers. There's Mike Matheny. He was outstanding in his day.
One and two. Here it comes. It's outside on a fastball. Strikeout wild pitch to get Castro on. Lake singled, but Castillo and Hendricks both caught looking on strike 3, and it's 2-2 on the rookie Russell. Now it's 3-2. There go the runners. Ball 4 to load them up for Dexter Fowler.
Well, that's a heck of a take there by Russell. You know, here's a kid who has struck out in better than 40% of his plate appearances so far in the big leagues. Man in scoring position. You think he might be a little anxious, maybe chase. And got a good read on that breaking ball, gave up on it, and took his walk. Keep the line moving.
Fowler bounced to third to start the ball game, and a late cut that time. Fouled out of play. Lions with the 0-1. It's upstairs.
Making lines throw a lot of pitches, as was the case last night with Martinez, and a lot of work for the Cardinal bullpen in that ball game last night, and they were coming off 3 consecutive extra inning games over the weekend with the Pirates. So similar story here tonight. One of the storylines last night was Mike Matheny needed to get innings out of his starter. That didn't happen.
This next pitch, he's going to reach 50 here in the second inning. 2-1 on Fowler with the bases full. The pitch, 2-2.
Carlos Martinez went 3 2/3 innings last night. I think, did he throw 100 pitches? He threw a crazy amount of pitches.
He got close to it. 102 pitches for Martinez last night. Count holding here. 2-2 on Fowler.
102 pitches to get
8 outs.
Yeah.
No, sorry. 11 outs. Ground ball to short. Peralta will get the out at second. They force Russell, and Lyons escapes. The Lion has escaped, everybody. WGN Cubs, and we may use it in our fan cam a little later on. Tyler Lyons got out of a major jam in the top of this inning, and now Peralta against Hendricks. Ball one. Johnny led the Cardinals last year with 21 home runs. That is a fair ball. It's that diagonal sidewall, and he's got a double to start the inning.
Peralta was trying to go the other way and hits it right down the first base line for a leadoff double. Kyle Hendricks, here in the early going, has struggled against left-handed hitters. They're hitting .343 against him. Righties coming into this start less than 200.
Ball one to Hayward. 6 for 13 against the Cubs this season, including 2 hits, 2 runs last night.
Yeah, real good swings last night. Starting to heat up after a sluggish start.
Keeps those elbows really tucked in his batting stance as he gets ready to hit.
His swing reminds me a little bit of Bryce Harper.
Yeah, it's a good call.
The lag he has in his bat.
3 balls, no strikes. Molina on deck. 3-1. Cardinals are 27-11 against the Cubs in this ballpark since 2011. It's full 3-2.
Cut fastball sits on the inside corner, and Hendricks last start he really had a good sinker working. Pitch that had been a little spotty for him in his previous couple of starts.
Drive out in the right center. Peralta back to tag. Fowler makes the grab. Here comes the throw. And it'll be cut off by Castro. We are going pink to promote breast cancer prevention awareness. Monday, May 11th, all fans of the Budweiser bleachers and bleachers in left will open that night. We'll receive a Cubs Charities Pink Out T-shirt presented by Advocate Healthcare. Cubs players will wear pink batting practice jerseys that will be auctioned off to raise funds for mammograms for underinsured and uninsured women. For more info, go to CubsCharities.com. Infielders in against Yadier Molina. Did not play last night. Ball one. 79 career RBIs against the Cubs, the most he's had against any opponent. Had a lot of opportunities, but a lot of those RBIs have been big ones over the years.
2013, 2014, he hit better than 400 combined in those two seasons against Cub pitching.
Low average 231, but you see he's been way better in this situation. And when he does get in this spot, he usually thinks to the right side of center.
Yeah, that's kind of his natural stroke to begin with. Every now and then he'll cross you up and try to turn on one. He does a lot of good work. Middle of the diamond, other way.
Swings away 3-0. And hits it foul out of play.
Hendricks trying to clip a corner there. Didn't want to give in on 3-0. And Molina wants to drive that run in. Early in the game to start putting people on base, but Hendricks won't give in here. He'll try to make a pitcher's pitch. If he walks Molina, it's not the end of the world. They can play for two with Wong up, and then the pitcher's up after him.
Past Hendricks, past two diving middle infielders, and Molina gives the Cardinals a lead. That's frustrating. Hendricks just missed it. Castro and Russell couldn't get it, and it's 1-0.
Falls off just a little bit to the first base side, so he's not in ideal fielding position when he finishes delivery.
So he's at first, a run in, 1 out, and it's Colton Wong, who has 5 hits his last 2 games, including a game-ending homer on Sunday versus Pittsburgh and a game-tying RBI single in the 7th last night. Hendricks uncharacteristically getting behind a lot of hitters here tonight. He had an uncharacteristic start his last time out. He walked 3 in 5 innings in a loss to the Pirates. He had walked 1 batter in his first 3 starts combined. Maybe 2. Russell, Castro, Rizzo, inning over. Cardinals strike first. It's 1-0.
enhanced bleachers will have a new look and feel with additional amenities and more group spaces. Tickets are available for games as early as this May 11th. Visit Cubs.com/bleachers to buy tickets and learn more about the new spaces and when they will be available. And there you go. Look at those people having a blast.
Yeah, so Monday against the Mets, bleachers in left and center field remain on track to open for the fans.
A little well area down there.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that.
Kind of hang out.
I've got the Budweiser patio, which we know about. The Budweiser bleacher suite, the left field porch, the right field porch, and as you mentioned, the left field well, which is brand new. It'll feature space close to the action, first 2 rows above the wall. Designated standing room, limited seating for groups of 15 to 50 fans.
Arguing about baseball.
1-0 on Anthony Rizzo. Cardinals lead 1-0. That was a good frame job by Molina in the bottom part of the zone. 1-1.
Tight little slider that was off the plate, down a little bit. So one thing for a young catcher, don't be in a hurry to throw that ball back. Give the umpire, you see how Molina, and only in the borderline ones, you don't want to try to steal pitches that are way out of the zone. Those borderline pitches, frame it, give the umpire a good long look at it. Even on the one, that slider that was low, it looked like Welke hesitated a little bit before making the call.
That one rifled into right center. Rizzo 2 for 2. Really hangs in there well against lefties. Bryant struck out in the first inning. I mentioned reached base 5 times last night, 4 walks and a hit. The second time in his first 16 career games he's reached base 5 times. And that's why you see a .452 on base average.
Yeah, pretty impressive stuff, right, for a young kid just getting his feet wet in the big leagues. Sure, we all want to see him hit the ball out of the ballpark. That'll come.
Too high that time. Cardinals didn't pitch particularly well last night. Neither team did. 19 runs combined. The Cards with a .244 earned run average as a staff, by far leading the way in the majors. Only 2 teams out of 30 have an ERA of below 3. Cardinals and Pirates. Cardinals the only team allowing less than 3 runs total per game. 2.72 runs per game allowed. Bryant went, according to the first base umpire, DJ Rayburn, who rings him up.
I don't know. Borderline. That's a tough call. Just a reaction call by the umpire.
Soler grounded to third in the first inning. He's batting cleanup tonight, and Rizzo's going to take off for second. Lyons threw that ball, and Rizzo was actually standing on the bag. He's going to try for third, and he's going to get in. That's a big mistake by Tyler Lyons, who's not happy with himself. Rizzo was literally on first base, and for some reason, Lyons tried to pick.
Speed kills. Rizzo stealing all these bases. He's gotten in their heads. But, you know, when he does decide to run, he takes that very modest lead and then goes on first move, and maybe that's what Lyons was thinking. And, you know, disregard the lead. I'm going to see if he breaks as soon as I pick up my foot. It was a very awkward throw. Obviously an errant throw and a big break for the Cubs.
Yeah, the infield in now. Runner at third with only one out. Two-base error by the pitcher.
And that's just a byproduct of the fact that Rizzo's been stealing bases this year. All the scouting reports have it. Hey, got to pay attention to this guy.
Line shot. Holiday coming in. He makes a catch. Winds up to throw. Rizzo's going to score on a sac fly by Soler, and we're tied at 1.
Soler has struck out a lot so far this year, but when he hits the ball, he hits it hard a high percentage of the time, and he did there. That thing looked like it was knuckling on Matt Holliday out there in left field.
And to reach far to his left.
That's some funky movement, and the Cubs cash in on the error.
So the Cubs get that run right back. Half cut by Castro. Rizzo saying, I'm going to be a 40-40 guy this year. You watch.
Yeah, he's having some fun in there with the boys. Speed kills. He goes, I'm like Billy Hamilton.
Lions nearing 70 pitches on the night. Strike three, got him. Cubs have tied it though. It's 1-1 in the third. Sponsored by Jeff Vukovich, your nationwide insurance agent serving the area for 37 years. To join the nation, contact Jeff at jeffvuk.com. Nationwide is on your side. A 1-1 tie. A strike on the pitcher, Lions. Rizzo, big night. With a couple of hits, and the Cubs run.
Lions can swing it a little bit.
Bounce to the shortstop, Castro, and he throws him out. Yeah, .210 career hitter in the minors.
Good athlete. You talked about his football background. Kyle Hendricks, an outstanding golfer.
Jay hit by a pitch to start the bottom of the first. Getting Lions, that's the first time in the first 3 innings Hendricks has retired the leadoff man.
Yeah, this is the time to play catch up after working hard for a couple of innings. You hope to have a quick inning. Anytime you have the 8-hole hitter or the pitcher leading off, you feel like you should have a quick inning. Doesn't always happen, of course.
And you know, we've never retired the leadoff man, but that's a good thing. Here on WGN. We had another one tonight before the game. Strike 3 called.
It was a high quality leadoff man too. Cub fans, let's go. The Cubs are making noise this year, so don't miss the excitement at Wrigley Field. The Cubs return to action at home on Monday, May 11th, start of a 7-game homestand. The Metropolitans and the swashbuckling Pirates are in town. Tickets are still available for every game. Get your tickets at Cubs.com.
Are the swashbuckling Pirates or the pirating swashbucklers?
The seafaring. They're the trailing the Cincinnati Reds 4-1 Pirates tonight.
One strike on Carpenter. Outside 1-1.
I guess you could say the Pirates are treading water. 5-5 over their last 10 games. A game below 500. Cardinals just
hasn't been all smooth sailing.
No, it has not. Choppy waters. The Cardinals are just threatening to run away with this thing with the start they've had. And if they continue to play at this level, they will. But highly unlikely that they'll play 760 baseball over an extended period of time.
Cubs are 13-11. That's good for 5.5 out in the division. It also, if the season ended today after 24 games or last night, the Cubs would be a wild card team. Long way to go.
Imagine how much drama there would be in baseball if it was like a 30-game season.
There would be a lot.
Every night would be like a World Series game.
At the limit, 3-2. Holiday on deck.
It's a fun matchup. A very smart pitcher, a very smart hitter. Smart pitcher made a smart pitch. Didn't get a call.
His first walk.
Yeah, I like the shot at the inside corner there because Carpenter covers middle of the way so well. Easily could have been called a strike.
Now a career .308 batter. 5 years with the Rockies. Holiday hit .319. 93 games with the A's in 09, hit .286. 7th year with the Cardinals, .300. Pretty consistent. Yeah, his highest OPS as a Rocky, as you would imagine. Won a batting title in 07. And now pitcher and catcher will discuss.
So this may be a case of Castillo going out there and saying, look, remember, this is what we talked about in the meeting. Here's how we want to try to get Holiday out. And Hendricks might be, okay, but here's what I'm thinking. Based on the way I feel tonight and the way my ball's coming out of my hand and the movement I'm getting, I've got a little different plan. I'm just surmising that would be the type of conversation that might be going on.
Carpenter with a 2-out walk. In the air the other way. Soler will grab it. The inning is over. 3 in the books. Cubs 1, Cardinals 1. Still brewed the hard way. This Bud's for you. I have to head over to the brew house after this one. Tyler Lyons to Junior Lake and a strike called. We want to send out congratulations to our good friend Jordan Beasley, who just graduated from the University of Indianapolis. And he starts his new job on Thursday here with WGN. He'll be the stage manager for the White Sox broadcasts.
Way to go, Jordan.
1-1. Now 2-1.
And we have to give a shout out to Lenny Marullo tonight. Our old buddy, Lenny, former Cub, 98 years young today. And we had him on last year, right?
Yeah.
He was a gas.
Deep to right. Hayward on the warning track. He's got it in front of the fence. Junior Lake with a good pass at that ball, and he nearly hit it out.
Yeah, Junior continues to have good at-bats, trying to press his case. Up the single in front of Hayward first time up. Now tries to drive one over his head. Hayward twisting and turning a little bit, but able to make a late adjustment and haul it in. Lenny Marullo, like I said, 98 years old, played in the 1945 World Series. He's the last living Cub to have played in that series.
Kick and the 0-1 is low.
And he has to be among the oldest living ex-major leaguers. There can't be that many guys, if any, older than Lenny.
Lyons rocks and fires, and a ground ball to Peralta short. And with 2 outs in the inning, let's step aside and see what's coming up on good old Channel 9. Hendricks takes a strike. Whenever I hear the name Hendricks, I think you get that question if there's a band or an artist you could have seen that you missed. Hendricks would be in my top 5 for sure.
I think you're going to say George Hendricks. Historic.
Ball strike 3.
I thought Texas didn't have runners.
Yeah, yes, of course they'd be on the list. MasterCard debit card only available at your local Wintrust Community Bank. Go to wintrust.com/Cubs to learn more. Member FDIC. Temps in the upper 70s, low 80s this evening here in St. Louis. Clear skies above, and a 1-1 tie in the bottom of the 4th. 1-0 on Matt Adams. Make it 2-0. Peralta and Hayward to follow. Each team with 3 hits. Steven Strasburg apparently injured. He had to leave the game tonight against Miami after 3 innings. Ball 4. Washington trailing the Marlins 2-1 in the bottom of the 6th.
Cubs Authentics is the premier outlet for all MLB authenticated game used and autographed Cubs memorabilia. Visit Cubs.com/authentics for more information and to bid on weekly auction items, including game used baseballs, jerseys, bases, and much more. The Cubs will donate net proceeds from the sale of Cubs Authentics to Cubs charities.
There will be a rarity in baseball tomorrow, a good old-fashioned 2-for-1 doubleheader. as the Diamondbacks and Rockies rained out again tonight. So they'll play a double dip tomorrow.
The Rockies got off to that great start. It seems to like order is being restored. Oh my.
Well, a play by Bryant, but he bobbled it, and everybody's going to be safe. Great pick. Then he just couldn't hang on to it. And Peralta's got an infield hit.
The ball really scalded. He has it cleanly in his haste to try to get two. He never gets the handle and has to settle for none.
They're giving him an error. Okay. I don't like that call simply because I thought the play itself was very tricky. So in other words, if that ball, if he doesn't get it cleanly in the first place, I think it's a hit. So.
Yeah, it's like, well, I think they divide the play up into two parts. Okay, it was a heck of a play to catch the ball. Now what do you do with it? And
I'd still give him a hit.
Yeah, I'd be tempted to too. I think his error wasn't just trying to be in so much of a hurry, but he's trying to get a double play.
So 2 on, nobody out, and 2-0 on Hayward. He drove a ball to center to get Peralta to third in the second, and then Molina knocked him in. Strike called.
Well, there's a little symmetry here. Hayward's parents both went to Dartmouth, where Hendricks matriculated.
There you go. Not hit very hard. Russell will get one. That's a second. Peralta forced. First and third for Molina.
Russell has made some tremendous plays out there. Very athletic plays. He showed great range, quick feet, a good arm. Comes and gets that ball, unloads, keeps a man out of scoring position. They weren't going to get two.
And guess who in another RBI spot? Molina. Javier Baez has been ejected tonight in Iowa's game. Randy Waho for the voice of the I-Cubs tweeting, Baez hit a ball over the foul pole in the third inning. It was called a homer, then reversed. Marty Peavy got ejected. Popped up. Will it stay in play? It will not. Baez hit the next pitch to the wall, and after the ball was caught, Baez was ejected. It's the second time in 4 days the I-Cubs thought they had hit a home run only to have it reversed. Happened to Christian Villanueva on Saturday, and Peavy got kicked out that day too.
What, no replay in AAA?
Also, Barry Zito called for a pitch clock violation in that game. Ended up being ball 4. Ground ball, third base, Bryant to Russell, to Rizzo, safe at first. Joe might want to replay, but before that even happens, Russell had a lot more time than he thought with Molina running.
Molina's had some knee problems this year, and I think Molina went down the line assuming it was going to be a double play.
Yep, they're going to challenge. They're going to challenge.
This is what appeared to be a very easy double play. Turns into anything but. Rizzo goes straight out Gumby mode there. Tremendous stretch. You can't really tell there whether he got back to the base or not. Well, Molina's still not there.
Right.
I can't tell if Anthony's toe ever got there.
And the first call was safe, so we've got to find something conclusive.
Now, this will be the angle. If he gets back to the bag, this is really unbelievable.
He never did.
Safe.
So the Cardinals are going to have the lead.
Yeah, and I think, you're right. Russell didn't have to be fast on Molina's part, but he had to be fast because Hayward was bearing down on him. I guess he could have stepped back, taken evasive action, and then made the relay to first base. Cub outfielders are walking off the field like they think it was an out, but I don't think they're going to win the challenge.
They're not going to win this one, unfortunately, and the Cardinals will take the lead. Ooh, they called him out? I don't think we ever saw a replay that had his foot on the bag, but I guess he did. I'm glad I was wrong.
How about that?
So we're still tied at 1. Hit the mitt, then it came off. It's very difficult on our replay here to show that. They obviously had a better look in New York. That's our Mazda replay cam. Mazda, conviction, creativity, courage. This is the Mazda way.
Well, we were kind of focusing on the race back to the bag because Anthony tried to go back and retouch because he wasn't sure that he was on the base initially, but the look they had obviously showed that he was already he had contact when he made the catch.
So big challenge by Joe Madden and call reversal, overturn. He'll retain his challenge. And the 0-2 to Russell misses, so that ends up being a 5-4-3 double play. That ball clubbed to deep left, and it will get off the wall. Russell on his way to second. He's got a double. Just missed his second homer of the series.
that was a rocket. He hit that home run last night. We talked about how the ball exploded off his bat. Here's another one. Tracer off the wall on left. That's very impressive power for a middle infielder. I don't know if all this young Cub talent is going to, mature in a hurry here this year. Don't know what the end story is going to be for 2015. But I was thinking about this earlier today. If you were to have a draft, if you were to get baseball executives together,
bunted by Fowler. Lions will underhand to Adams. Continue.
And you were to say, of the players in uniform here tonight, these two clubs, let's have a draft. I'm guessing 4 of the first 5 players picked in that draft would be in blue. And this is a 19 and 6 team, or 19 and 6 team in the other dugout I'm talking about.
I can't argue with you. It's a nice position for this organization to be in. Infield in against Rizzo. So yeah, the call was that Rizzo had the ball in his glove, foot on the bag, then it came off. At that point, the runner was out. And again, MLB in New York, they have the look of all the camera angles, not only our broadcast, but the home show as well. 2-1. So our look was blurry on the freeze frame, but they had other angles they were able to see.
And as best you could tell on that blurred look, that it made sense.
And I wasn't looking to see. I assume he came off. So
right, I was kind of focusing on the after the fact, the race back to the base.
The obvious answer was right in front of our nose, and we missed it. 3-1 on Rizzo. Cubs trying to take the lead. He walks, and here comes Bryant. And it is the 5th inning, brought to you by Fifth Third Bank, the Curious Bank.
Lyons out there mopping his brow. He's really laboring. He's kind of a high energy guy out there. He's walking around between pitches. And we go back to that whole conversation about protection. So even left on left with dangerous hitters coming up, Lyons wasn't about to give in to Rizzo.
Here's a pitch. It's taken for a strike. Nothing in 2. He held that time. Another good take. Well, Chris has struck out a lot, and he's going to continue to do that. But I don't think any pitcher's ever going to be comfortable against him, even with 2 strikes, because he can grind.
Yeah, and despite the fact that he hasn't gotten deep yet in the big leagues, everybody knows how dangerous he is.
Yep. And a base hit, and the Cubs lead 2-1. Russell scores. RBI number 12 for Bryant.
Breaking ball elevated a little bit. Bryant singles sharply to left. Derek Lilliquist is the pitching coach of the Cardinals, out there chatting with his young left-hander. Seth Maness, who got the save last night, up here in the 5th tonight. Their closer Trevor Rosenthal was unavailable last night. He's been very busy lately. Had pitched in 4 of the previous 5 games, including 3 in a row.
Now Soler, lined, base hit. Rizzo will be held by Jones, and they are loaded up. Bases loaded for Castro.
I tell you what, if I'm an infielder and the manager says pull the infield in when Soler's hitting, if I'm on that left side, I'm saying no thank you, sir.
I quit.
I'll just stay back here. I'll tell you what, Skip, I'll tell you what, Soler's going to shorten the distance between home plate and where I'm standing. You don't really need to move in.
That will be it for Lyons, who, as you said, has got to be gassed. 96 hard pitches made in this one. 2-1 Cubs in the 5th. They're trying to get some more. Last night. Well, he comes in tonight in the 5th inning with the bases loaded, 1 out, and Mike Matheny's thinking a ground ball here. That's what he does best, although he did give up a home run to Addison Russell.
Yeah, every now and then, yeah, if he elevates, he's in trouble, but you know, this is a pretty easy move for Matheny with Lyons out there running out of gas. The sinker baller Maness ready to go. Bases loaded. Castro hits the ball on the ground a lot. Due up. A run in, 3 on, 1 out, and a foul.
by Castro.
Well, Manus did elevate that fastball. Castro had a pretty good rip at it. His thinking should be stay inside the ball, try to hit it the other way. He's much more likely to hit it in the air if he does that. He's pulling off a lot of balls, and when he does, he tends to roll over on it, hit it on the ground to the left side. Couple strikeouts tonight, so that average has dipped down below 300.
To the shortstop, Peralta, the little flip. Wong, not a good throw. Safe at first. Another run's going to score. So Rizzo in, and then Bryant just kept on going to make it 4-1. Mike Matheny may want another look. And again, heads up base running by Chris Bryant.
Yeah, boy, Joe Madden was talking about that with the writers before BP today, or during batting practice in the daily scrum, talking about Chris Bryant running the bases safe.
Yep.
Here comes Rizzo, and right on his tail, Chris Bryant. It's the way to play the game, big fella.
So how about 2 RBIs on a fielder's choice by Castro?
Bounced into what should have been an inning-ending double play.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes baseball gods smile down on you.
I'm not sure I've ever seen quite that play where a guy bounces into a 6-4 fielder's choice and gets 2 RBIs out of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it's happened, but I can't recall seeing it.
That's why you love the instincts of Chris Bryant, because he will challenge your assumptions about how a baseball play should look.
Well, it's the type of play you expect to see maybe Billy Hamilton or one of these little, speed demons pull off. But he just, you're right. He because he doesn't make assumptions. He doesn't get fooled. He's not running okay and then try to turn it on. I'm going to go as hard as I can in case an opportunity opens up where I can take an extra base. Joe Madden says he hates station to station baseball. Well, he's got to love what he's seen from that kid. Secondary lead, head down, never stops. You don't see a 6'6" third baseman do that, right? You see Ricky Henderson, Billy Hamilton, those type of guys.
Blake strikes out, but a big inning. The Cubs get 3. All charts to the starter Lions. How about a 2-run fielder's choice? 4
Welcome back. It's a 4-1 Cubs lead. The Cardinals to bat in the bottom of the 5th. The newborn fan club is the perfect gift to showcase what it means to be a Cub for life. Receive a customized photo of the Wrigley Field marquee, a Cubs birth certificate, baby stocking cap, and a Rookie of the Year onesie. Visit Cubs.com/kids today.
Chris Bryant didn't know if that was going to be an inning-ending double play or not, but he kept running hard. And when Castro was safe at first, Cubs got that extra run. And yes, as I just got tweeted, Starlin Castro is 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts and 2 RBIs. That's trouble deep to right. Off the bat of Colton Wong, and it's going to one-hop the wall for a leadoff double.
Soler reacted as if he thought that ball was going to get out of here.
He did.
I'm not sure he could have made a play on it. Long juices it pretty good. I think he thought he got it good enough.
Peter Borges for Manus. And he just got hit. For the top of the order, 2 on, nobody out.
Second hit batsman of the game is trying to throw a fastball in on him a little bit, or just not much of an effort to get out of the way. You see that call about what? Once a decade, once every 5 years, you'll see an umpire say, no, stay in here and hit. You made no attempt to get out of the way.
Mitch Harris up in the Cardinal pen. Very interesting story. Mitch Harris, we'll get into it if and when he pitches. 4-game series, we've got time. That's a tease.
I see you working.
Jay swings away, deep left. Lake going back, and he will make the catch. Long tags, but he's going to have to hold. What good play by Junior Lake. Right to the spot, and a strong throw back to the infield.
Yeah, and a ball that can sometimes be very problematic for a left fielder off a left-handed hitter's bat. A lot of times that has some slicing action, but he made a nice break on it. I don't know if StatCast will back me up, but it seemed to be a fairly efficient route and a nice jump.
I'd have to agree with you.
Every comment of that ilk that we make now, we're going to have to qualify. It appeared to be a good jump.
Right. Yeah, all this technology makes us look a lot dumber.
And it's going to expose a lot of players who have reputations as being, really good defensively. Get great breaks and run great routes. Well, we're going to find out.
Find out if that's actually true or not. And some guys we may think don't do that, and the numbers would say they do. I'll give you an example. Line shot, right field, gone, and we're tied. Matt Carpenter with his first hit of this series, and it's 4-4.
Cardinals are just not going to let go of this winning streak easily. They're going to really have to battle them all night long. They came back twice in a big way last night, and here they go again. Kyle Hendricks finally gets a little breathing room, something to work with. He hasn't had many leads this year, and it's gone just like that.
You've been way too quiet to start this series. 0 for 6. With a couple of strikeouts and a walk, but a game-tying 3-run bullet to right. Now Holiday. Called strike. Line drive, center field, base hit. Holiday 2 for 3. Former Cardinal Edwin Jackson starting to play catch. I think there's 2 relievers who didn't work last night. And the Cubs got some bullpen reinforcements with James Russell back on the roster. Remember, he got traded to the Braves last year. And right-hander Anthony Varvaro, who was recently claimed from the Red Sox.
Yeah, so the Cubs have plenty of arms out there to cover the innings they need tonight. They just might not have the guys they normally would turn to. Ross Cup maybe not available tonight. Strope likely not available tonight.
So one example of some of the more in-depth defensive numbers that like a defensive player better than a lot of people have over the years, and that is Johnny Peralta, who's on deck. At defensive WAR, he rates pretty well. And I think the reason is, JD, if you hit a ball at Johnny Peralta, he'll probably make the play. Not flashy. He's not going to Andrelton Simmons you much.
And defensive reputations in this game, they tend to linger. So even if you struggle when you first come up, you get labeled. It tends to stay with you. And conversely, if you come up and you get the reputation of being a very good defender, that tends to stay with you too, even if those skills have diminished.
Yeah, Baseball Reference defensive WAR, they've got him as a 7.5 D-WAR guy in his career. He's either been average or a plus defender. And it's not a perfect number. Two on Adams. Lifted to right. Soler may be battling the lights a little bit as he makes the catch.
Looked like it, didn't it?
And on the flip side, a lot of defensive metrics over the years have not liked Dexter Fowler. And I know he's worked a lot with Dave Martinez. Some pre-pitch planning. They talk about your little circle and the idea of between pitches you can walk around and do whatever, but you get your focus when the pitcher gets ready to work. And Dave said he's been very happy with what Fowler has done, and right on cue he's going to get an opportunity. And he makes a catch. Matt Carpenter with a 3-run homer to tie it. It's 4-4. for your chance to win 6 meals from the Simple 6 menu from Subway. Subway, eat fresh. Message and data rates may apply. Well, I said it earlier, definitely an early MVP candidate. He's on the team with the best record in baseball. And off to a fantastic start and just tied the game with a 3-run homer. And here is the aforementioned Mitch Harris, who has served 5 years of active duty in the United States Navy. He reached 2nd lieutenant status. He is the 2nd Naval Academy graduate to appear in a major league game. The first was in 1921. Pitcher named Nemo Gaines with the Washington Senators. Pretty cool story.
Yeah, what an accomplishment. So making his major league debut this year at the age of 29. After 5 years of active military duty, they kind of fast-tracked him through their minor league system.
Wellington Castillo in the air. Pretty easy play, though, for John Jay in the out. JD, how do you get to Wrigley Field?
Practice, practice, practice.
Well, the Cubs suggest not only that, but the use of public transportation. Or for bike riders, use the Cubs courtesy bike check located near Clark and Addison. And for drivers, the Cubs provide free parking and shuttle service on night and weekend games from 3900 North Rockwell. Cubs.com for details. Chris Coughlin will pinch hit for the pitcher Hendricks.
Clearly a frustrating night for Hendricks. Battled through those early innings, tiptoed around some traffic, allowed just 1 run until the 5th, and then saw his 3-run lead disappear with 1 swing of the bat.
Yeah, and he's out because the game's tied, not because of a pitch count. Only 72 pitches in his 5 innings. So if the Cubs still had the lead, he would definitely have taken this at bat. That is a strike, and it's 2-1.
So Harris started his professional career in 2013 at State College, was 4-1 with an 0.81 ERA there. State College. I'm not even sure what league that is. Not the Penn League, I don't think. And last year, A-ball, AA, AAA, just 1 appearance at AAA. But the bulk of the year at Springfield was 2-0 with a 392 there.
Off of third, Carpenter makes the catch. I said 2nd lieutenant. I think it's lieutenant. So I apologize. I guess there is no such designation in the Navy as 2nd lieutenant, according to some tweeters.
That's right. I called Lieutenant Dan Captain Dan last year.
Did you?
Yeah, remember when we had Gary Sinise on? We got talking about it. Said something about
I
Captain
don't remember
Dan
you saying that.
Yeah, I said something about Captain Dan.
Ground ball just wide of third.
He's like, that would be Lieutenant Dan. Of course it would. I thought maybe he had been promoted since the movie, but no. See, everybody's got their little sombreros on tonight. Cinco de Mayo. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. See, I wasn't making that up.
1-2 on the way, and Russell spoils it.
Little cutter fastball, and he's got, he throws pretty hard. It appears to be a pretty straight four-seam fastball for Harris. A little cutter and a split finger pitch. There's a cutter at 87.
All right, now I think I got to the bottom of it. Lieutenant junior grade. There you go. According to the AP story back in April.
Twice honored as a third-team All-American while at the academy. He's the second highest draft pick in Navy history. I wonder who the first was.
Well, the Cardinals thought it was strike three, and you can see Bill Welke saying nope.
Sorry, Lieutenant. 95. Headed for the outside corner, but he missed.
Ditto.
Well, that's old-fashioned drop and drive there. Molina hangs on a good long while, but it's off the plate.
Driven to left. Holiday will watch it. Get off the wall. Just missed another one. 2 doubles for Russell in this one.
Wow. Wow. Is this kid really starting to turn it on? The at-bats he's had tonight, that walk he took in the second, laying off these borderline pitches here and hitting another laser off the wall. "21 years old."
Fowler.
You're talking about Dexter's defensive metrics, the ratings that kind of viewed him poorly. I'm wondering if a bit of that is the fact that he played out in Denver and that big outfield there. When they do their ratings, like the zone, the ball's in your zone that it get caught or not caught. That's such a huge outfield to cover. That may have adversely affected those numbers
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how they devise it. I'm sure park factor has to play into it. Harris still a member of the reserves. He has spent time deployed in the Persian Gulf, in South America, and in Russia. Was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. And again, reached lieutenant junior grade in the Navy. They wrote a song about that.
It's going to be stuck in my head for the next 40 minutes.
One ball, 2 strikes. Now he steps off. He's had a few borderline 2-strike pitches not get called. And a couple to Russell, who ended up doubling. Let's see where this one was. A little bit in. 2-2. Swing and a miss, strike 3, and the inning is over. Tied at 4 in the 6th. Cubs with another lead tonight. 3 runs in the top of the 5th. Big night for Anthony Rizzo and Addison Russell. But Matt Carpenter erased that deficit with a 3-run blast off Kyle Hendricks. Honda Dream Garage Sales event now at your Honda dealer.
There you go. That's a quality sombrero right there. Matches her top. Very fashion forward.
Bet she's going to one of those Grateful Dead shows this summer. Here's Edwin Jackson.
Great opportunity here as he comes into this tie ball game. Gonna hold things down here for an inning, perhaps 2.
Fastball strike to Hayward.
Edwin's been throwing the ball well. It's a good command.
A topper. And Jackson will get it to Rizzo.
The Chicago Cubs baseball summer camps presented by ATI Physical Therapy are back. Give your kids an unforgettable baseball experience this summer. The first camp kicks off in Lake Forest. That's on June 22nd. Sign up at cubs.com/camps.
Molina singled home the Cardinal first run in the 2nd and bounced into a 5-4-3 double play. Originally was called safe at first as it looked like the Cardinals got the lead, but Joe Madden challenged. It was overturned as Anthony Rizzo did have his toe on the bag. A slip by Edwin on the landing. 2-0.
Kevin Segrist warming up in the Cardinal pen. Talked about Jackson throwing the ball well. The results have been good too. 9 innings. He's only walked 1.
And it'll drop for a hit in front of Lake.
One of last night's heroes. The grand slam in the first.
That ball struck hard by Colton Wong, who stays hot. He's got 2 more hits tonight. That gives him 7 over his last 3 games. Back-to-back one-out singles.
Yeah, really good young player. Speaks to how deep this lineup is that he's down there in the 8-hole.
Mark Reynolds will pinch hit for Harris. Got the Cardinals right back in it last night with a first inning home run. It was a grand slam to make it 5-4. Strike one.
Well played slider to get started. Reynolds has been used as a pinch hitter more frequently than anybody on the Cardinals. He's 2 out of 10 in the pinch with a couple driven in.
Wong had really strayed from the bag at first. Castillo looked like he wanted to throw. Decided in the end not to. The pitch. Driven to deep right center. Fowler and Soler are back on it. It bangs off the padding. 1 run will score. Mark Reynolds gives the Cardinals a 5-4 lead here in the 6th. Off the bench this time. 3 straight one-out hits.
He is a dangerous bat off the bench. He's a patient hitter. He draws a lot of walks. Yeah, he strikes out a ton. But he has a lot of pop.
And now Jackson trying to avoid a big inning. 2nd and 3rd, and still only 1 out. The infield comes in against Jay, who's 0 for 2, hit by a pitch in the 1st. Wong the runner at 3rd. Reynolds is at 2nd. Molina scored that 5th run. And Jay gets hit again.
Becoming a fairly predictable outcome. Third time in these 2 games. Well, that'll put the double play in order. And it'll bring Chris Bosio out of the dugout. Carpenter had been quiet until his last plate appearance. That was last inning, and he unloads on Kyle Hendricks. It's his 5th home run. Go along with a bunch of doubles.
Spazio out for a chat. Carpenter 6 for 16 against Jackson. Reynolds had been 1 for 8 with 6 strikeouts prior to that pinch hit RBI double. There's James Russell back in a Cub uniform, getting loose under the watchful eye of Lester Strode. Not an ideal spot for Jackson. Bases loaded and Matt Carpenter at the plate.
Matt Carpenter was a 13th round pick in the 2009 draft.
Deep left, Lake back. He's got it. It'll be a sac fly for Carpenter as Wong scores. Nice running catch by Junior Lake, but it's now a 2-run Cardinal lead. And Carpenter has driven in 4 tonight on the last 2 innings.
He's shown his ability to pull the ball, to turn on the ball, and we've always known he has the ability to hit the ball hard the other way. He makes another good catch out there and left, but the Cardinals do pad their lead.
Holiday into the right field corner, and it will land just out of play. Oh, I hope everybody's all right. I took a big tumble.
He appears to be fine. He can get back up. Oh, it's a security guy. He'll tumble for you. Just cracking up.
Oh, trying to get out of the way. Almost hit that fan with his stool. Meaning the chair. Lest there be any confusion. 1-1. She got a bigger kick out of it than he did.
Oh, well, yeah, I think he landed in the nachos. Don't cut it off. And with that fastball in on Holiday, the idea is to get it in on the hands, elevate it a little bit with life, and Jackson certainly has the velocity to do it.
I think we're near the stool capital of the world, Blaine, Missouri. Fouled away.
They make a lot of stools in Blaine.
Yeah. Stool boom. Working, building, never stopping, never sleeping. Some people will get it. 2-2 the count on Holiday. Bounce to the shortstop Castro. He's going to try to barehand, and Holiday's safe. Infield hit, bases loaded.
I don't know. It's kind of a tough play to make with the barehand. As much pace as there was on that ground ball, I don't know if he would have had a chance to make the play. Otherwise, I thought he did. I thought he could have come in and just quickly made the two-handed grab and flip play. I think that's a safer try. He's unraveling here in the middle innings.
That will be it for Edwin Jackson. And here comes James Russell, starting his second tour with the Chicago Cubs. We will be back in a moment.
Market Game Live or on demand in True HD on over 400 mobile and connected devices. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.tv for details.
He's back as a Chicago Cub. James Russell, 29 years old. Much of his career with his original organization. He was traded to the Braves last July the 31st. He was cut by Atlanta at the end of spring training and signed to a minor league deal by the Cubs in early April. And he's up, selected from AAA Iowa.
Welcome back to the Cubs and welcome back to the big leagues for James Russell. And here you go, bases loaded and a dangerous hitter in the box.
The pitch is in the dirt. James, the son of former major league pitcher Jeff Russell. The 1-0 to Adams. Ground ball to Castro. He's going to throw to first. Russell pulled over against the left-handed hitter. 6-3 on the ground out. Inning over. But the Cardinals lead by 2. How you like me now? Here's left-hander Kevin Segrist. Cubs trail 6-4 against the hottest team in baseball right now. These Cardinals winning 7 in a row, trying to make it 8 here tonight. Reynolds stays in after giving the Cardinals a lead. He's at first. So Adams made the final out. That's where the pitcher spot will go.
Good night for Rizzo so far.
Now this is the part of the lineup you want coming up. Rizzo, Bryant, Soler. Double single walk, 2 runs for Rizzo. Bryant with an RBI single his last time up.
Ooh, good try by Segrist. How You Like Me Now, an appropriate song with Segrist coming into the ball game 2 years ago. Really good for the Cardinals. Last year fell off, ended up back in the minor leagues, had a high ERA with the big club, but he's pitched very well so far this year.
And a base hit to right. He just keeps on hitting. 3 for 3 on base all 4 times.
Doesn't matter. Left, right, power pitcher, finesse pitcher. Remember 2 years ago he had so many problems with breaking balls down. He was chasing them, and that's gone away. Then the lefty thing became an issue. He fixed that.
Line shot, knuckling, and caught by Holiday. Bryant's only mistake was he hit it too hard. Carried all the way out to the left fielder. A lot of topspin on it. That was a rope.
Yeah, and a good aggressive swing and a first pitch fastball. Chance to tie the ball game, get a pitch to your liking, take a whack at it. He did, just not rewarded for a really good swing. Soler's been hitting the ball hard tonight.
Rizzo has that patented 6-inch lead over there at first. Maybe he can get another wild pickoff throw. One strike to Soler. Called strike 2. Lyons, Manus, Harris, Segrist. For the Cardinals, Hendricks, Jackson, Russell so far for the Cubs. Pitching has not dominated this series. The bats have. 10-9 last night, 6-4. And we're not even done tonight.
Good swing. Little change up there. Bit of a hanger from Segrist. Jorge'd like another whack at that one.
Swing and a miss. He got him. That's the second out of the 7th. And his It's a tough pitch for a lot of guys to lay off, and an even more difficult pitch to do any damage with. Reds beat the Pirates tonight 7-1 in Pittsburgh. Ground ball picked up by Colton Wong to end the inning. Will stretch here in St. Louis. 6-4 Cards.
Two more here in St. Louis, and in Milwaukee for Craig Counsell and the Brewers, with the Mets to get the homestand started, and then 3 with the Pirates. Ford, America's best-selling brand, inviting you to go further in our fuel-efficient vehicles. Check out our entire lineup at your Ford store or localfordstores.com.
Here to go, Chicago Blackhawks. Chance to sweep the Wild. Corey Crawford pitched a shutout tonight, 1-0. So they lead 3-0 in their Stanley Cup playoff series. Round 2. 1-1 the count on Johnny Peralta. If you just tuned in, yeah, James Russell's back with the Cubs. Amon got out of the 6th inning after St. Louis got 2.
People turn in and they probably think there must be a rain delay. They're showing a game from last year. Nope. Russell's back. You can go home again. So an extra arm in the bullpen, at least for tonight. The short bench.
The Jed Hoyer joke. Matt Caesar had come to St. Louis with Denorfia headed to the DL. Kind of joked he's on the taxi squad. They don't really have such a thing, but we could see some more changes. Justin Grimm is nearing a possible return to the active roster. He's going to take it day to day. This is Soler and right, and that's the first out. And there are a lot of reasons to take it day to day. You never know in that next 19-inning game's coming. Or pulled hamstring like we saw last night for Denorfia. Ground ball, that'll be picked up by nobody.
Confusion there in the middle of the diamond, obviously.
A hit, but it should have been an out. But we don't have a team error in this sport.
There's been a couple balls hit out there in recent days where Addison has backed off a little bit, thinking that Starlin was going to come across and make a play, and that time Castro decided to try to go ahead and make that play. So can sometimes be a bad combination. Addison sometimes, not sure of himself. He's inexperienced at second base, and Castro sometimes indecisive.
There goes ground ball, diving stop. Chris Bryant, lots of time. He gets Molina, throw to third, and Hayward's in. So 2 outs.
A good play all around here. A heck of a play defensively by Bryant. He gets to his feet, makes a good strong throw. Hayward, who was going with the pitch, hustles on over to third base, just beats the return throw from Rizzo. And 2 long throws across the diamond allows Hayward to get to third base.
Want to know to Wong. He's been hot here as of late. Vicious cut that time. 1-1.
Boys, that big leg kick generates a lot of bad speed.
Ground ball, surrounded by Castro. The throw to first, late. Not in time. Wong with an infield hit. And the Cardinals add to their lead. Joe wants a second as he'll take a look at the video, but I think he beat it.
Inside out.
First glance.
Castro makes a heck of a play.
Very close.
He really got after that ball, got rid of it in pretty good shape.
No challenge.
And there's, example there, that hustle play by Hayward really paying off. We talk about there's not a great advantage to getting to third base with 2 outs, but clearly there was there. The entire right side of the infield vacant for Reynolds. And Rizzo holding the base runner, everybody else on the left side.
Deep left. Lake on the warning track, and he makes the catch. 7-4 as we go to the 8th. Four games in against the Cubs. Got 7 hits in that time. Scoring their 7th run. One and 0 on Lake. Hit foul. By the way, there actually is a taxi squad. It's kind of a one-day thing in special circumstances. So Matt Caesar was actually on that
really? I didn't know a
squad.
Taxi squad existed in baseball.
It's set up basically for situations like the Denorfia, where you bring up a guy, he doesn't get Major League service time. He can kind of stay in limbo for a short period of time while a team decides whether or not it wants to place a guy on the DL. Does not accrue service time, not on the active list. So now you know.
I did not know that.
Yep.
I've been around this game for 30 years.
Well, I think it's fairly new.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the White Sox beat the Tigers 5-2 tonight. Jeff Samardzija got a win.
They kind of needed a win, didn't they? It's been a rough go for the White Sox. They snapped their 5-game skid.
Marlins beat the Nationals 2-1. Matt Latos got his first win as a Fish. Strasburg, the loser, and you mentioned he went out of that game with an injury after just 3 innings.
Let's see David Ross at some point. Segrist in his second inning of work. And the 3-2. Lake with a fly ball out into right center. John Jay camped, and he's got it.
Braves thumped the Phillies 9-0. That Philly club, they just cannot score.
Castillo the other way and deep. Hayward hustling after it. Can't make the catch. Ball resting on the warning track, and well, he's got a double. His first hit tonight. And that will bring up Ross to pinch hit.
Oh, nice pass at that fastball down around the knees. He's been really good against left-handed pitching in his career. Hayward gets turned around a little bit on that one. Well, to do a little damage here in the 8th, give you a fighting chance in the 9th.
Fouled away. So the Phillies. So Chad Billingsley. So that was his first start since when?
I don't know.
Long time, right?
Long time, yeah.
Over 2 years. April 15th, 2013. So coming back from Tommy John surgery. And he gave up 6 runs in 5 innings, 5 earned. Randy Choate, and the guy who got the win last night, Miguel Sokolovic.
Shutout for Shelby Miller in that game tonight for Atlanta over the Phils. Shelby Miller, the former Cardinal, now 4-1 with a 166 earned run average. Braves hanging in there. Most folks thought they wouldn't be very good this year. They're a game below 500.
Three and 1 on David Ross. Russell's on deck. That's Addison Russell. I was curious if Tom Otis Hellman would add an A in front of Russell's name on the back, and J for James. Not necessarily something you have to do.
David Ross should get a cookie here on 3-1.
He walked him, and the tying run will come up.
That's probably going to do it for Segrist.
So the call has been made. Looks like it'll be Sokolovic, the ex-Cub. Here he comes to face Russell. 7-4 Cardinals here in the 8th. Kind of an all-hands-on-deck approach right now for this Cardinal bullpen after a weekend of extra inning affairs against the Pirates, and he got the win last night.
So just a couple of big league appearances so far this year, and for his career only 14 appearances at the big league level. Previous major league time coming with the Orioles and the Cubs in 2012. Spent 2013 in Japan. Last year he was at AAA Las Vegas for the Mets organization. Russell has been locked in tonight. Might have been a strike, might have been outside. That time the call went against him. Outside. And the way they were pitching him his first at bat in the second when he worked the walk.
Nothing in 2.
Breaking ball in the zone. Skolovich is lucky on that one.
Here it comes. Low and outside. From Caracas, Venezuela. 6'1", 195. He's 28 years old. As JD mentioned, not much big league time. 6 of those games as a Cub in 2012. A little bit away, and it's full 3-2. 2 strikes followed by 3 consecutive misses. Fowler on deck. Cubs trying to rally late. Last night leads of 5-0 and 8-4. Tonight led 4-1. The Cardinals have scored the last 6 runs, and he got him. A strikeout for the second out of the inning.
Yeah, it was a kind of a weird at bat. Russell showed very good discipline on those sliders off the plate. He got 2 breaking balls in the zone, and those pitches usually get hit. He pulled off both of them. Breaking balls in the zone tend to get hit, and you see number 2 and number 6 there on our pitch tracks. Russell unable to make contact. I mean, did so many good things in that AB. Just came up empty.
Cubs will have their top 2 starters the next 2 days. John Lester tomorrow night, Jake Arrieta on Thursday, Lance Lynn and John Lackey scheduled for the Cardinals. Then we're off to Milwaukee for the weekend. Because you know everybody's working for the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll be in the land of cheese.
Maybe even some high cheese.
Changeup is outside. And it's 2-1 on Fowler. Big crowd again tonight, as we mentioned. 41,613.
Well, the honeymoon's over for Craig Counsell. They're getting beat 7-1 tonight by the Dodgers.
Another good changeup that time. 2-2.
Turns over that changeup. Fades towards the outside part of the plate. Fowler just pulls off a little bit.
Tried it again. Fowler wouldn't bite. Rizzo on deck. Sokolovich would rather not face him.
Sokolovich won't face him. Fowler keeps this inning going.
You've got Choate up in the bullpen. So right now it doesn't really matter, does it? Left, right?
No. I would like Rizzo's chances against Choate. Fowler's job to make sure that happens.
Runners will move with this 3-2 pitch. Not much speed on the bases right now. Castillo at second, Ross at first, so that's why that head start will help. And here it is. He walked him, and they're loaded. Don't go anywhere. Cubs are down 3, but Anthony Rizzo's coming up with the bases full. Tried another changeup. Yeah, I'm not sure Matheny's going to make the move.
Interesting.
Could part of it be with the amount of bullpen Matheny's had to use? Well, he has choked for Rizzo. If he uses him, he doesn't get him. Then you've got Brian Soler Castro.
Right, I think that's
so he's got to use 2 guys maybe to get out of the inning.
Right, and I think that's exactly right. And you know, sometimes you manage trying to prevent the worst case scenario, and other times think, well, what are the chances he clears the bases here?
And again, if the splits tell you that it might be a flip of a coin, the way Rizzo's swinging the bat, he's deciding to stay with the righty. And strike 1. fact, all Rizzo's faced tonight, lefties. 3 hits and a walk off Lyons and Segrist. The 0-1 on the ground. Wong in the grass, and he'll make the play. Sokolovic comes through as his manager trusts him to get him, and he did. Got Rizzo with the bases loaded. Only the first time Anthony's been retired tonight. So Phil Koch on to work here in the last of the 8th.
Again, a night in which both clubs have used a lot of pitchers. Koch comes on for the 14th time this year. He's pitched to a .587 earned run average, 13 hits allowed in 7 2/3. A lot of traffic allowed.
Nice job by James Russell. He was charged with an earned run, but remember how that rally started on a ball hit near second base, and Russell and Castro collided. So that is about as unearned as an earned run gets.
Yeah, and I think Starlin could have made a better effort on the long ground ball too.
Ball 1 to John Jay.
It's the 4th consecutive game in which Koch has appeared. He's been busy. He has not thrown a lot of pitches in those outings. A third of an inning last night allowed a hit, and that was it through 10 pitches.
Here's 1-1. He's on the outside edge.
Well, every day the relievers will go out and throw before batting practice. Chris Bosio will get with them, ask them how they're feeling, and kind of go over it with Joe Madden as to who's available, who's definitely unavailable, and who you'd like to try to stay away from if possible.
Koch off the mound quickly, and he'll take it to the bag unassisted. You ever play pitcher's hand?
Pitcher's hand.
Yeah.
Oh, and you don't have enough guys, so the pitcher gets to
You
throw it to
play
back
all
the
the time.
pitcher,
So basically, throw the pitcher before the guy reaches first, and he's out. It's kind of like that, although Koch had to actually touch first.
And what was the game? Was it One-Eyed Cat? when he'd run to second base and then back to home.
I don't know that one.
Yeah. As if he didn't have enough to make, have a full team.
Or you'd call your field. If you had two outfielders, you'd pick right or left. Biggest hit of this game, no doubt, the 3-run game-tying homer by Matt Carpenter. Did a lot of things. Turned the game around, knocked the starter Hendricks out, basically. So he was pinch hit for. In the bottom of that inning, Cubs had to go to their bullpen. Cardinals got 2 off Jackson in the 6th, 1 off Russell in the 7th.
Yeah, the Cardinals don't hit a lot of home runs. They've hit a couple very big ones in this series.
You may see both guys who were added to the bullpen here tonight. Saw Russell. We may see Vavaro. Eugene Doherty checks in. How about a ghost man on the bases? Oh, yeah, sure.
Yep.
Yeah,
ghost runner.
Yeah. Taking me back to when I was 11. Good stuff. I don't know. The kids play pickup baseball anymore?
That's a great question.
These young kids today.
Yeah. And we liked it.
Swing and a miss, strike 3.
I remember you take the strap of your glove, put the bat handle through it, put it over the handlebars of your bike.
Oh yeah.
Take the ball and jam it up there into the crossbars of the bike, intersect it. Off to the park you went.
Played in some small backyards. I'm amazed parents allowed us to actually use a baseball. It broke a window or two, I'm sure, as I think back.
Yeah, and it's also interesting how big those yards have played when you were a little kid.
Yeah, and you go back now and you can't believe how small they are. Another one to the seats.
One summer night, for hours, we played this game where we just took a ball, threw it up on the neighbor's garage roof, let it roll down, and the guy would stand there and catch it, and then somebody was tagging up and would run home. And so there was a guy out there catching the ball off the garage, a guy tagging up a third, and so just one play had to play it after another for hours. With plenty of time in between for arguments over the call.
Right.
There was no umpire.
We didn't post pictures on Facebook of said game either.
I got you. No, you didn't.
One and two on Matt Holliday. The pitch, low and in.
Matter of fact, I went for a walk this morning, and walking over towards the arch over here, and I come across Aaron Boone and his son. They had been out having a catch under the arch.
Oh, great. Good stuff. Do we have a fourth generation Boone who's going to make the big leagues?
Pretty good chance, right? Yeah, I was reading a story earlier today with the international signing period coming up, in Vladimir Guerrero's son, Vlad Jr., apparently a heck of a player.
You know how old he is?
I don't. I'm guessing 16-ish.
Nice play by Koch. 1, 2, 3 go the Cardinals. Last chance for the Cubs in the ninth. On their 8th straight victory and 20th out of 26 to begin the season. Here's Trevor Rosenthal, not available last night, back in there tonight. This is a save spot with his team leading by 3 as he faces Chris Bryant.
High octane fastball, upper 90s. A real good changeup. That's his best secondary pitch. He does throw a breaking ball as well.
97 for strike 1. Oh, that got Bill Welke off the mask, but he says he's all right. One and two.
Molina sliding out over the outside edge there. I don't think Rosenthal has any inclination to try to hit a corner.
Roll to the shortstop, Peralta. And he gets Bryant. 1 out.
That was that good changeup after the 97-mile-an-hour heater, an 87-mile-an-hour change of pace.
Cubs have dropped 3 in a row for the first time. They had been 7-3 following a loss. which was the best record in the NL. They're going to need a big rally here to change that. One and two. Man, you come in here, JD, you scored 13 runs in the first two games. If I'd offered you that before the game last night, yep, you got to feel like you're at least 1-1, right, to start this series? If not 2-0. 2 down.
Yeah, especially the way the Cardinals have been pitching. The hitters have done a very nice job in these first two games. And these are the kinds of losses that sting a little bit extra. It's a long baseball season every day, kind of the same in many ways, but it's like a big come from behind win gives you a little extra boost. When you give up leads and end up losing, those sting a little bit more.
Ground ball into center for Castro. He came in with no hits but 2 RBIs tonight on the 2-run fielder's choice back in the 5th. The single makes him 1 for 5 and keeps the game alive for Junior Lake. Castro gets second, will not be given a stolen base. How about a slider at 90? Swing and a miss on a fastball at 97, and the Cardinals win yet again. Their 8th in a row. The Cubs have dropped 4 straight. The final score: the Cardinals 7, the Cubs 4. We'll be back in a moment.